How's it going, sports fans? This is Jack and Ryan with the Talking Jack Sports podcast. I'm so excited to be here because it's mock draft season.
Indeed, I got the proper attire on too.
He's got the draft day
the
fit. I am like Bill Belichick. He doesn't wear suits. He just wears the hoodie. But no one can be Bill Belichick. But we're gonna try and make the worst draft we can possibly. No, I'm just kidding.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, mock draft season. This is what we're doing today. Pretty straightforward. Both of us have our own mock drafts, and we are going to talk about where we think people will go. And as far as trades go, I included them. Ryan did not. And not that it's super realistic to have no trades in the first round, but it's tough to project that stuff a month before the draft starts because most trades are during the event. So we'll talk about trades that could happen. I will talk about trades I think will happen. But we're just going to get into it. Also, if you want to know our March Madness brackets, because that's happening right now. We're taking time away from watching March Madness to make this for you. I know, we're so generous. But if you want to see our March Madness brackets, that's going to be on the TikTok. And if it isn't already, it will be.
LSU Tigers are playing right now, man. Dude. The one good basketball team we have, the women's basketball team.
True, dude. Yeah, we were talking about our women's brackets. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I made a women's bracket. I don't know about you, man. But
dude, I'm sorry.
When you actually
to all the women out there, I didn't make a women's bracket. I'm so sorry. I would have just said all the 1 seeds are going to the Final Four because they probably will.
Just say LSU made it. Okay, problem
solved. I will never do that. Okay.
Okay, fine.
So, mock draft season. We're going to just kick it off with the pick that everyone knows is now going to happen. Justin Fields was just traded, which makes way for Caleb Williams, the incumbent, to take over the city of Chicago. Whoa, he's so surprised.
What do you mean Caleb Williams, bro? It's obviously Lad McConkey. He's going number 1.
Bro had Lad McConkey first overall. Honestly, that's my bad. He should have been first. He was a consensus first.
In all seriousness, okay, as much as you want to say Caleb Williams is like a red flag or whatever, this guy's good.
I don't get the people that are like, he's so arrogant. It's like, we've seen this before with like Johnny Manziel, and I'm like, you didn't just compare Johnny Manziel to Caleb Williams.
I was gonna say,
right?
Johnny Manziel had some off the field issues. Caleb Williams at most just has that annoying Hollywood vibe.
Yeah, Caleb Williams paints his fingernails and doesn't do his measurables at the combine, and like what's his face? Johnny Football is going to bars with a disguise. It's like, why are we here?
They're not on the same level. They weren't even the same level in college. This dude is insane. Okay.
He's unreal.
I don't like glazing the man, but he deserves just a little bit, just a little bit of praise.
People are going to call us like glazing Caleb Williams for this, but I'm going to be completely honest. This is my favorite quarterback prospect I've seen since Andrew Luck. I am completely sold on Caleb, and I think he's going to be and it's like, people compare people to Mahomes all the time, and I think that's stupid because nobody plays like Mahomes. But if there is any person I've ever seen play football like that man, Caleb Williams out of structure is the closest I've seen to Patrick Mahomes. And I feel like the Bears aren't going to pass on that again, because they did in 2017. Remember when that happened, when they took Mitch Trubisky instead of Mahomes? Not making the same mistake.
Move right there. I mean, as much as we could say, there's a lot of red flags, and he very well could be a bust. Hell, any of those guys can be a bust.
Exactly. We are not NFL scouts as much as we claim to be.
I mean, one day, right?
Yeah, we'll get there.
We'll get there.
And this mock is the start. We're going to predict the entire draft completely correct, both of us somehow. Okay, so now we get to the pick that I want to talk about for a second. My Washington Commanders are taking a quarterback. We traded Sam Howell, which is sad, but was unfortunately necessary. I think, well, I wouldn't say it's necessary, but after we signed Mariota, I knew it was pretty much going to happen.
Yeah.
But we know as a franchise it's not going to be Caleb, because the Bears aren't going to let us trade up, and he's not going to fall. So we now have the choice between Heisman, Jaden Daniels, and Drake May, a guy who has pretty much been at the top of this for like 3 years. So who's it going to be is the question. And I think it's unfortunately going to be Jaden Daniels. And that sucks to say unfortunately, Ryan, because I know you love Jaden Daniels. But I personally am not as big a fan of Jaden Daniels as a lot of other people. I think Drake May is considerably better in almost every aspect. But Jaden Daniels is exciting. He is a dual threat, a guy that I think you can really build a specific offense around and take advantage of his traits. But you also have to avoid a lot of unfortunate things about Jaden Daniels, which, we've done that with RG3. That we already did that.
I mean, I understand the whole, as someone who's watched him play live, it's like there was several times where he runs and he just does not care at all about if he gets obliterated or not. Like, it's almost funny that you can create a genuine highlight reel on how much this man's been lit up in one season. A little concerning, and I do say that like a little bit of his pocket presence. Some people would say he's strong in the pocket, but I feel like it's more out of just he doesn't care. Like it's not like he actually has.
It's tough because his awareness is not that high.
Yeah, he's just like, yeah, there might be pressure, but I don't care. Like, but with the upside, you get a beautiful deep ball, you get a beautiful, dual threat quarterback, a guy who can run, and a guy who I think knows how to run, not just like when to run, but also how to run. Like this is a really good player. Okay, so I know you want Drake May, but I think you will be happy with Jalen Daniels. I guarantee you with that.
When we draft Jaden Daniels, I'm going to be really upset about it on draft day, and then the next morning I'm going to wake up and think he's the future. That's what's going to happen. I know it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean that's what.
So I'm going to be excited about it when it happens, like soon after it happens. But when we draft him, I'm not going to be super thrilled about it.
Plus, Cliff King as their quarterback or as their coach, basically,
that's another big
offensive coordinator, basically kind of sealed the fate that Daniels is going to go over May.
That was the first step, and when we traded Howell and took Mariota in, if there's ever a guy that's like an available backup that plays like Jaden Daniels, it's Mariota. Which we talked about this in the last episode about free agency, which ties a lot into this mock draft. So if you haven't checked that out, please go do it. But anyways, that is the pick for me. Would you agree with this?
Yes, I also have Daniels going. I like him. I feel like he has a lot more upside, and I think some of his fallbacks are a little bit covered by bias on my part, so I'm just gonna ignore him. But like,
that's fair.
He also has he has incredible talent. Like, if someone can develop him into a good quarterback, he'll be good. I think there's a little bit of a risk. He's not like overall better than May, but I think his upside's significantly better. And that's a thing that a lot of people like talking about in college. So,
yeah. So we're on the same page there. So at 3 for New England, this is a spot where they could, I thought about them trading both up and down. It is reported apparently that Washington and New England are considering swapping spots because New England kind of has a guy in mind, apparently. But I was also thinking about a team like maybe Minnesota coming up and taking the number 3 spot because they just traded for another first-round pick. And I would think they want to package that into another trade-up. But I just think about it, and I don't really see any reason for New England to trade down here because their positions of need, 2 generational prospects at the – well, we throw around generational too much. So I would say 1 generational receiver and 1 S-tier quarterback prospect, in my opinion, is sitting there at number 3. And if you want one or the other, why would you trade down and take a worse person at that position? So I just don't see it happening. And with that being said, I think New England, should Drake May fall to this spot, would not hesitate and take him immediately. He just feels to me like a Patriot.
Yeah.
He kind of has the vibe, and y'all know what I'm talking about. But he's a really big dude at 6'4". He's got a lot of measurables that I think are just really spectacular across the board. He's got sneaky athleticism, which I've said that to multiple people, and they have the same reaction you just did, Ryan.
Exactly.
But he's a real first guy in, last guy out kind of deal.
A lot of
grit and toughness. No, man, I don't want to turn this into Drake May because he's a white guy, but I do think that he is a really big-bodied pocket passer that fits the modern style of pocket passing because it has evolved into something totally different than what it was. But I don't think there's anything like a pure pocket passer anymore. I don't think that exists. And Drake May is doing a really good job at being that evolved version of someone who can sit in the pocket, really survey the field intelligently, work the middle, work the deep ball, work the boundary. And overall, I like him as a prospect in everything except his throwing mechanics. That is the one super scary red flag that I've seen a lot of people talk about. But you can work around a weird throwing motion. It's possible, and it's only weird by a little bit. It's just a little slow. That's all it
Yeah,
really
it's
is.
a little slow. I noticed that too. But he has everything else that the other two quarterbacks who went above him have. Just is not as athletic. That's like the only thing really. And even then, I'm tired of people saying like to your point, it's like he's sneaky athletic, but he actually can run. Like
He
I've
actually
seen
can.
the dude.
He has
I've
good
seen the dude
escapability.
skedaddle to get first downs before. Okay, it's not like
Yeah,
he's totally screwed like an old gen pocket passer guy. Like he will be able to move when he needs to, and with him being a relatively big body, hopefully I can make him just eat up them sacks.
exactly.
You know. So I
So
also have Drake May going there,
I would
and
figure yes.
I did say that they could trade, but it would be kind of dumb at this point. It's like you either trade for a quarterback you think that can win something, and then you get Marvin Harrison, or you do this and you just get Drake May.
Exactly. I just don't think it's feasible. I think the only situation in which they trade is a trade up. If they are really, really enamored with one of Jaden Daniels and Drake May, I would figure the latter. But in that situation, I would figure Washington. At this point, we can safely say that they are locked in on Jaden Daniels. So why would they trade up one spot if they're going to get Drake May at 3 anyways? So
I feel like in order for you to get any of those top 3 picks, you would have to sell so much more than it's actually worth.
Yes, actually, yeah.
Because you'd have to be literally giving up your like entire next 3 seasons or something.
It's a Mitch Trubisky trade up type thing.
Exactly.
Like if we remember
it's like,
what
it would be
happened.
painful.
2 Mitch Trubisky mentions. Wow. Okay.
Go for 3.
We're going for 3, but we'll see. So that's the top 3 quarterbacks, not super uncommon. And now we go to number 4, which I assume we agree on as well. Arizona, at this point, is pretty locked in on Kyler being the guy. They're going to give him some more time to prove that he's him. And I think a great way to do that is to give him the best receiver prospect we've seen since Megatron. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a surefire all-pro immediately. I think he will be one of the best wide receivers we've seen in a long, long time, and that's in a league right now chock full of wide receiver talent. I love almost everything about him. He's big, he's fast, he runs routes fantastically. I've watched almost every snap he's played in college, and he's the beast, man. I can't really say anything negative about him, and it's a shame that he's going to fall to 4 because I think he's the best prospect in this class. So
I mean, yeah, between him and Caleb, like those two almost guaranteed people that seem like they have immediate upside, immediate success.
Yes, I agree.
Personally, Marvin Harrison is still my favorite receiver by quite a substantial bit. However, I do have a little bias towards a different receiver who's probably going to come shortly just because he technically had a better season last year. But the fact that Marvin Harrison Jr., he was one of the receivers that I'm pretty sure tore up Georgia's defense last year, if I remember correctly. With CJ?
I think you are talking about the year, like the year before this season that just happened. Yeah. Then yes, you are correct. What happened is Marvin Harrison got hurt in that game.
He did get hurt. But
if he did not get hurt, a lot of people are like, Ohio State would have won that game. I don't want to hear it. Probably, but I don't want to hear it. As a Georgia fan,
I do like Georgia too, okay, I swear. Yeah, like he's just an insane guy. We know this for a fact. He's good. Sure, there's a little bit of name value there that might help him win like an award in college, but that doesn't mean anything. Mm-hmm. Like I'm a little salty that he beat for the best receiver in the nation over Malik Neighbors, but once again,
statistically, Malik had a better
season, but it's whatever.
Yeah,
this dude's been good since he's actually gotten a shot in college.
Yes, exactly.
So like that's all that really matters. Consistently, yes, exactly. And he's been consistently elite. So obviously he's going number 4. Kyler will have fun with him, hopefully.
I think so. I think he'll be a really nice replacement for Marquise Brown, who has headed to Kansas City. But now we move to number 5, another team that is desperate for pass catchers. Mike Williams and Keenan Allen have both since departed through release and trade, respectively. So they're going to need a pass catcher. I've seen a lot of people mock Brock Bowers in this spot, but that was before their wide receiver room was completely decimated. So I would say at this point, they're pretty locked in on taking a receiver here at 5. And the best one available, we've already talked about him for a little bit, Malik Neighbors.
Yep. Malik Neighbors is a just incredibly awesome receiver. I mean, once again, another guy I got to have the honestly the privilege of watching.
That's fair. Yeah, talk your shit, bro.
This dude was insane. And he's not even that big compared to his duo receiver Thomas Jr. Like
Hmm.
he's like 6 foot. He's like right at that Justin Jefferson height. But like, oh my gosh, the route running's insane. The catching insane. He's I feel like people sell him short of his speed a little bit. This dude can go deep if he needs to. He's not as fast as his other, receiver, but he's still
Hmm.
pretty freaking fast. And just overall, like you could say, oh well, he had Jalen Daniels, but you could play that card on both sides. Like they are both just incredibly good players.
Yes.
And I also have Malik Neighbors here. I think that's kind of a given since
Right.
the
Right.
Chargers
Right.
have literally nobody. And if Justin Herbert was going to stay for another season, they would have at least given him somebody.
Yeah. Quentin
It's not.
Johnston is just, he, I think, is the biggest motivator for this pick right now.
Yeah.
They can't bank on Quentin Johnston making a leap because he simply showed no tools this past year. And I think Malik Neighbors is a surefire stud. And I like a lot about him. Like you said, you pretty much summed it up. So that's who we got at 5. Hopefully, Justin Herbert can finally have like a real young, new talent to throw to. So that's the Chargers at 5. Now we jump to the Giants at 6. And this is a spot where I've seen a lot of people project a quarterback. But I personally think it's a little high for somebody like JJ McCarthy.
Yep.
I think, speaking of Jaden, should he fall out of the top 3, 4, 5 picks, which I think is unlikely, but we've seen weirder things happen.
Exactly.
We've seen weirder things happen. I think this would be a good spot for him to go, but as we've already discussed, he does not fall. And here the Giants just desperately need receiving talent as well. And I'm going to say a third receiver goes in a row with Rome Odunze from Washington. I think he is just so athletic, and it's a guy that would be a breath of fresh air for New York. The best person they've had at this position since Odell Beckham. He is a great sideline worker. He can burn the DBs, and he is really sneaky after the catch as well. I've seen a lot of people slander his ability out of the catch or after the catch, and I think that is really just underselling him so much. There's so much that he does well, and this is just a truly loaded class for receivers. It's wild that Rome Odunze, with the talent that he has, is the third receiver drafted. So that's who I got the Giants taking.
I also have them taking that.
Wow.
Like, I'm just saying, you got that connection. I'm not super high on him, but I do have to give credit where it's due. He's insanely good. Like, if there wasn't a Malik Neighbors or a Marvin Harrison in here, he would definitely easily be the first receiver off the board just because of a bunch of reasons. I mean, you basically said everything. He's pretty good at everything all around, and people do slander that yards after catch, but I've seen that dude definitely bowl over some people and get the extra yards if he needs to. Like,
yes, 100%.
So, easily the next guy off the board, in my opinion, for receivers. So that makes sense.
I think it's a really smart pick from New York to spend on the flashy receiver here. But that's going to be in big contrast to number 7 for me. The Titans are in kind of a weird spot because they have some talent at pretty much every position. So the logical move to me to give your second-year quarterback Will Levis a real audition is to give him the bookends at tackle that he really needs to protect him. I have a feeling that we once again are going to double up on this pick, both of us. But I think the best blindside blocker in this draft is Joe Alt out of Notre Dame. Unchanged from my first thoughts from this whole process. I've always had Joe Alt at this spot, and I think he is being even a little undersold right now as a prospect. I think he's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's literally nothing bad about this dude. He's done insanely well his entire college career.
Yes, he's been absolutely rock solid.
Low key might just be tackle university, man. I swear, there's always a good tackle in the prospects going from Notre Dame.
Yeah, it feels like it, huh?
And why wouldn't you give someone, an elite level pass protector for a person that you maybe want to keep? I mean, I wouldn't want to keep him because he puts mayo in his coffee. Still pisses me off to this day.
Mayo coffee mentioned.
Yeah, but Personally, they can do them. They can get someone to protect them. Personally, I would make sure that there's just no one protecting him and it's just him in the center. But, that's just me
Yeah.
hating on the fact that you put mayo in your coffee.
He's a Will Levis hater, but the
No,
Titans, I think, want to give him a
mayo
shot.
and coffee hater.
True.
Will Levis is fine.
He just makes choices that are disagreeable.
He just makes some egregious choices in food.
Yeah. Okay, so that's Joe Alt. Now we get to your Falcons, and I'm going to say my piece before you get into it because I know you want to talk about this. This is a spot where I have seen pretty much only defensive players being mocked. And to me, it is just, are you going to take an edge rusher or are you going to take a corner? And for me, I feel like every year there's an edge rusher that gets a little bit overdrafted. And I feel like this is a really good spot for that to happen. Not that this is a bad player. He's not. He's one of my favorite players, and this is maybe biased from me. But my pick for this spot is Laiatu Latu, edge rusher out of UCLA. So I'm a big fan of him. He's super polished, super physical. He's had a really nice career at UCLA. And he can shoulder a big load of the pass rush work right away and not have to really shadow a guy on his opposite side. I just think he's going to be a stud. I like him a lot, and I feel like it's a place Atlanta wants to address in edge rusher.
I was going to say, if Atlanta doesn't get somebody that can attack the edge, I genuinely might put a spike in my head because I'm tired of seeing us just be like the worst team to protect the pass. Like we got like no sacks last year. It was painful. We had a good rush defense because we just had a bunch of slow big guys. But we just need that one fast who's also strong off the edge in order to get pressure to that quarterback, which is something that we've struggled since like Vic Beasley, his like rookie year. Vic Beasley was the last time we even drafted a edge rusher in the first round. Funny enough, I think it might have been around pick number 8 too. But
I think you're right.
With this being said, I like 3 really good edge rushers. You already mentioned one of them, Latu. I also really do like Jason Verse.
Jared.
But
Jared Verse.
Sorry, I'm reading my mock draft and somehow I got Jason. That's on me. Jared Verse. I know his name, I swear. And then the guy who I put here is I put Dallas Turner. I liked him in the combine. Pretty fast, strong dude. He's from Bama, and I mean, I don't want to be that guy, but I think SEC, doing well in the SEC is like a very notable thing for certain positions compared to like other teams, other divisions.
I think Dallas Turner is probably going to go here. I think that is a realistic pick, more realistic than what I have. But I'm also just personally not as big a fan of Dallas Turner, which I'll get into later because I do have him obviously going in the first round. He is a first round prospect. So I'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, I think that is a really smart pick at this spot.
Yeah, this will be subject to change after. This was honestly the first thing I was going to do after the podcast, like this weekend, as I was going to watch between him, Jared, and Latu, and just see which one I like the most out of those guys. Because I would be happy with taking any of those 3 as long as it's an edge rusher. That's all. Yeah. That's like the one standard. I'm like,
I really don't think if you were to take a corner, it would be that bad. I think it would be
annoyed, but I'd be okay with it. If we pick an offensive guy,
another offensive skill position player.
I was gonna say I'm gonna lose my mind.
Yeah, that would not be bueno.
We have good linemen. We have good. If somehow we get another running back, somebody's getting off. This is annoying, but no, we're gonna get someone on the defense. And honestly, an edge rusher or a corner, at the end of the day, I will be like, all right, fine.
Yeah.
No. I personally think at that pick, you would be kind of dumb to not pick an edge rusher, and then you could later trade up a little bit just to get your corner.
That's true. The corner class is, I would say, considerably deeper than the edge rusher class. You're going to get a lot more value picking an edge early as opposed to a corner. So I agree.
This isn't there's not a Sauce Gardner here, and I mean Dallas Turner's pretty damn good. Mm-hmm. It's hell, any of those 3 are really good. So
yeah. So I agree with you.
I like Turner just because I think he killed it at the combine.
He did. He had a very nice combine. He made himself a lot of money at the combine.
Exactly. He definitely killed that combine.
All right. So that's Atlanta at 8. We both have an edge rusher, but for the first time, At 8 picks in, we have a different guy. So now at 9, I'm wondering if we have the same one again.
There's no way.
But we will see. This is an interesting one because I saw a lot of people mocking Chicago to trade up from 9 and try and get one of the top 3 receivers, but then they traded for Keenan Allen, which I would say alleviates the need to trade up for a receiver. I expect them to still draft one eventually. But with that being said, now I would shift my focus to protecting your franchise quarterback that you just drafted and getting a really, really rock-solid offensive tackle, a guy that I've seen a lot of people project even higher than Joe Alt, which we mentioned before, with Olufashanu out of Penn State. I think he is, at this point, being a little underrated. He was at first, in my opinion, a little bit highly rated in this draft process, but I would say 9 to Chicago is an appropriate spot for him to go off the board, and they double down in back-to-back years on offensive tackles.
I could see that too. I definitely was contemplating what they would do here, but here's my thing. There's one player that I feel like should have already been drafted in this draft because of just how damn good he is, and it's such a layup pick. It's such a layup pick. Give me the guy that goes to the University of Georgia. He's a well-known guy there. Give me Brock Bowers. Like, if you have him stumble in front of you, I would take that shot. I know Cole Kmet is like a pretty solid tight end, but this is Brock Bowers, man. This is a guy who, honestly, for me, is a better prospect than Kyle Pitts. Like,
I agree.
This dude is insane. Okay, and I watched a lot of Georgia games for a while. Only stopped recently because I'm at LSU and I've been watching their games. But this dude is one of like the greatest tight ends that I've ever seen play.
Yes.
In the college
I agree.
level.
Absolutely. 100%.
And the fact that he stumbles in at the 9th pick, I feel like it's just like why not? I would lose my mind if I see Caleb Williams throwing to Brock Bowers from 60 yards away. Like, that is like the most confident thing I could ever see.
Yeah.
So I don't know why you wouldn't do that. I do understand the line help. I'm hoping they have that resolved kind of. They're getting it resolved. I can't remember if they signed anyone recently, but
not to my knowledge, they have made any like splash signings on the line. But I think Bowers is very worthy of being a pick this high.
Yep.
I just think Pitts really tanked the value of tight ends being drafted this early. I was talking with a buddy, actually. I'm sorry.
That's honestly fair.
I hate to slander Pitts, but that's really it. The reason he is not like a consensus top 5 selection right now is because Kyle Pitts just tanked the value of first-round tight ends. But what I was talking with a buddy about,
but yeah,
rightfully so. I'm sorry to do it, but I'm trying to be objective here.
Hey,
and
next year, baby, just watch.
this is his year finally. But I was talking with somebody about the value of like a high-picked position versus spending lower, and I think third lowest value for drafting highly versus waiting is tight end. Like, you get the third lowest value of a position drafting one high, and then you compare a guy that you drafted lower, and the difference in production is like it's barely like you can get a guy of almost the same caliber like 2-3 rounds after. So, and I'm not diminishing Brock Bowers. As a Georgia fan, I wish he would go top 5, but I'm trying to also be realistic, and you will see me talk about him more in a second. So we will move off of Carolina for Chicago for now. I just grouped the two because of the Bryce Young trade, but we move off to Chicago for now. And now I get to talk about the Jets, which I think would also be a really intriguing spot to see Brock Bowers go. But in this situation, I think that they have learned their lesson in the first round of the offensive tackle situation, because last year they should have traded up to take one, and they unfortunately got burned as the best one available got picked right before them in a trade up by the Steelers, that being another Georgia guy, Broderick Jones. But this year, the Jets not only signed Tyron Smith in free agency, but also draft a contingency plan for him to be gone and a guy to start at the other bookend spot on their line. Give me J.C. Latham out of Alabama. I've seen a lot of people put him a little lower than this, but I'm personally a little bit higher on J.C. Latham because I've seen him play a decent amount of times, and I just think he is so rock solid at the tackle position. And I feel like the Jets are going to want a more professional guy that has played against NFL talent like this in the SEC to step in immediately and make that impact immediately. So, that's who I've got them going with at 10.
Yeah, I mean, I also have a tackle. I just have Fashanu. Did I say that right?
Yes,
I'm
you
so
have
bad at
Ola
names. We
Fashanu.
know.
No, you got it.
I got. I mean, but since he's still on my draft board, I'm like, you may as well get him. He's obvious. I think he's definitely, arguably, the second best tackle here. Pretty locked in.
Definitely. If he's at
Um,
this spot, it's a no-brainer.
yeah, exactly. It's a no brainer. It's like destined for Aaron Rodgers to get protected. You could also do like a Green Bay thing and just get a quarterback just cause, but we're not. You're not doing that.
Ooh, that would be interesting if
That'd
they
be
drafted a
interesting.
quarterback. I think if they did that, Aaron Rodgers legitimately would retire and go run for vice
Yeah,
president.
yeah. I jokingly put under my thing. They could also get like a quarter, or if Brock Bowers fell to here, like the Bears didn't pick him, I would see another surefire spot. Like there's like a good solid like 9 to 10, and then 13 on, where it's like if Brock Bowers is still on the board, why wouldn't you take him?
Yeah, I agree for
Like,
sure. Makes
but
a lot
yeah,
of sense.
tackle. You know,
The
you're not
tackle, I
gonna
feel
want
like, is more important than
tears
ever,
ACL. Exactly.
especially with Aaron Rodgers. There's going to be an immediate impact because the Jets are pretty much now or never. It's this year or never. So
I was gonna say if they do not succeed this year, I could see a literal full blown clear office type thing, like GM gone, coach gone.
True, absolutely, 100%.
Anyone who
They're
isn't
all on
the
the hot
owner
seat.
is gone
Yeah,
because they are banking that Aaron Rodgers can at least bring them to a championship
yeah,
and ideally a Super Bowl. But if that doesn't happen, they're gone. They are
exactly.
so screwed. It will not be funny.
Exactly. So that's why we got the Jets going with tackles here to protect the Golden Goose himself. And now we move to the Vikings, which this is an interesting spot because we talked about them potentially trading up for a quarterback with the other first round selection that they just got. But I think it is pretty clear that they want to take one. They obviously did not sign Kirk Cousins. They do have Sam Darnold now on the roster, who, I mean, I think they're going to try and maybe give a shot to because I still think he can be something. But at this point,
give him the keys week 1.
I think so too, no matter who they draft, unless they were to trade up somehow.
Yeah.
But really at this spot, they have been linked to JJ McCarthy throughout this whole draft process. And I think whether you think it is appropriate for him to go this high or not, this is where JJ McCarthy will go. I think he's pretty much a Viking already.
Yeah, I mean, it's just written in the stars that JJ McCarthy is a Viking. I also have him, obviously. Yeah. And maybe you could just say, oh, he's from Michigan. You know, there's a bunch of just random things, but it's like I feel like JJ McCarthy personally is a little bit of an overhyped guy. There's a handful of the guys that are going below him that I would probably rather have for either upside or just they've shown more.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You know? Upside is a big one for me.
I feel like JJ McCarthy, maybe I'm wrong here, but the reason he's so high up is just because he did pretty solid in the combine. I know
he had a really solid day.
Balls were a little bit spotty. I saw a few of those.
Yeah, they showed like one clip of him like brutally missing a deep ball, but then the rest of his combine was actually really solid. I think it helped him out a lot. But the biggest criticism of him is that he plays in a system that is just the easiest thing for a quarterback ever. But if you want to take that as a positive,
Niners.
Yeah, exactly. It would be. But if you want to take that as a positive, if you look at Minnesota's offense and what the tools that they have with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, they just signed Aaron Jones. They've got an offensive line that has a lot of really nice pieces that I would say is a top half offensive line in the league, right? You got Christian Darrisaw there at left tackle, one of the best in football. Yep. You've got a whole lot to work with on the offense that makes it super easy for a quarterback to come in and take over, especially one in a winning system like JJ McCarthy. So I have really convinced myself that this fit is pretty solid for him. If any in the drafts that would help him succeed, this is one of them. So yeah, I like it for Minnesota, but I would say that they're capping their ceiling for sure with this pick.
Yeah, I mean, apart from like JJ McCarthy for any of these teams, apart from like the Niners, just because anyone could play there. No hate to Brock Purdy, I do love that guy, but
right, of course,
it's like they're stacked. This is a pretty stacked offense that I think people really kind of. I don't know if a lot of people realize that the Vikings have like an actually really good offense or not.
Yeah, seriously.
Like I don't hear anyone saying like the Vikings are basically what the Falcons were now, like last year. Like a pretty good talent, but honestly, I think they have a better offensive core than the Falcons do. Apart from like running back, and I still really like Aaron Jones. So
yeah, I'm still a huge fan of Aaron Jones.
Like, so if anyone was the plug and play replace for Kirk Cousins, JJ McCarthy's definitely your guy. He also has that really weird, like, aggressively winning mentality that I
Yeah,
think also sells him a lot more than his actual worth. But
I would think that he does really well in interviews. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, I was
He
gonna
he
say
strikes me as a guy that would really crush it in an interview, and that would help him with his draft stock. What are you laughing about over there?
my mind. You'll never know.
this
You'll never know.
this wasn't okay. This was not even commentary on that. But anyways,
No, but no, I mean, like he's just an overall good, solid quarterback that would be easily plugged and played into Vikings scheme. Like
yeah, exactly.
it feels like a no brainer. Could also see him trading up or down at this point,
Mm-hmm.
but I think they'll just get JJ McCarthy
Yeah,
just because he's there.
I agree for sure. I think this one's basically already a done deal. So now we move to number 12, where Denver sits. Denver is also very much in need of a quarterback, but I would say at this spot, if I am them, nothing really catches my eye in terms of value and immediate impact for this team and where they're at right now. So I look to explore a trade, and I think the first one happens at this spot. If I am the Jacksonville Jaguars right now, I am looking for a solution to the problem that plagued their season last year. Well, the real problem was offensive coaching, but I won't get into that because that's not changing. So I would say how they address it is to fix the terrible O-line play. And the way that they do that is to address the center position. And they trade up and take one of the best center prospects we have seen in a long, long time that I think is getting severely underrated in this process. It's Jackson Powers Johnson out of Oregon. I love his game. I've watched more of it now recently, and honestly, I'm just a huge fan. I think it's a slam dunk pick for Jacksonville, and I think they would only give up maybe a third, a fourth to make the jump.
Yeah, I mean, pick swap plus that would make sense. I I also agree that the Broncos could most definitely trade down because they, the quarterbacks, I feel like there's a significant drop off after those, I think, four.
Yeah, I would say
Um,
it goes Caleb, Drake, and Jaden, and then you've got a tier gap, and you've got McCarthy, and then you've got a tier gap, and you've got whoever
yeah,
else you want to throw in there.
but I just said possible trade, but even with the trade, I still think they get this same guy. I think they get Michael Penix Jr.
Wow,
Even with a down trade.
wow, that is a
I
shock for me.
I do respect a lot of his playing, in Washington. My biggest issue with him is just the injury thing.
Yep.
They went through his entire college and high school, and I'm like, how is this man still playing?
Yeah, it's insane what he's been through.
It's very scary, but also if you want a guy who can replace the Russell Wilson at least play style that you were expecting, he's probably the best guy still on the board for that.
Mm-hmm.
I do really like him. At first I wasn't even hating him coming to Atlanta. I would have definitely said we over traded for him, like we overpicked him if we got him at 7. But overall, I think he's a pretty solid prospect, and I think the Broncos would be pretty solid with him.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's a interesting pick there. I don't know how realistic that would be, given just that his stock right now is so up in the air. But I really can't make a judgment on quarterbacks past McCarthy. I don't know how that's going to play out at all.
I mean,
So
I still
yeah,
think they're still going to get. I feel like they definitely would trade down realistically because you can just get a little bit more value and you can get him later.
mm-hmm.
But
we've seen stuff like this happen before.
Yeah, I feel like no matter where he gets taken down to, the Broncos would still consider picking him up pretty locked in.
Exactly. So that's the Broncos, and for me, the Jags, who trade up in that spot. So I will address the Broncos shortly. But for now, at 13, Las Vegas is on the board. And interestingly to me, they don't really have a whole lot of obvious holes. Like, their defense really came together the second half of last year. They were one of the best in football after interim and now current head coach Antonio Pierce took over. They get Christian Wilkins in free agency to boost the pass rush. So I would say really nothing on the defense is like super red flag right now, like need to address in the first round. So I would just play it safe and I would give Aiden O'Connell a real audition because I think there's a chance he could be something. And to do that, a guy like Talise Fuaga being on the board, I think, is a no-brainer. I think they run up their pick immediately here.
Yeah. I mean, how high are you on like Aiden O'Connell personally?
Personally, I think there's a chance that he could be a solid mid-tier quarterback. He doesn't have the pieces around him to really succeed at that level. But considering how the Raiders finished the season last year, following the dumpster fire that was Josh McDaniels, shocker, he was terrible again. But they finished the season fairly strong, especially on defense. So I would say I would just wait right now in terms of the quarterback position. Maybe get a guy like Ryan Tannehill also in that room. They have Gardner Minshew, who they're going to give snaps to for sure. I don't know if he'll start over O'Connell. But I would just say you gun it with the roster you have and see how far you can get this season. I would say it's more of a trial run. And I would say opposite Colton Miller, who is one of the more underrated tackles in the league, Talise Fuaga is just a really good option to bolster the line. There's nothing wrong with picking up an extra bookend. So,
yeah, I mean, personally, I think a glaring issue is a quarterback, and I do think at some point it's like, well, we can keep throwing in a bunch of little things, or we should just commit the pick. I know they don't have any really good luck with drafting in the first round.
I'm so surprised.
So
right now.
I honestly would personally see realistically they should trade down, but with their selection, no matter where they are, assuming he's still on the board, I think they might go with Bo Nix.
Wow, dang!
I think those two are definitely the interchangeable quarterbacks when people think like the little concerning quarterback class part.
Yeah,
and they're honestly for two completely different reasons. Like Bo Nix had an insanely statistically good season, but he's on Oregon, and Oregon had a pretty damn good team too. He also, lost to Washington twice, which is
this is true.
Kind of like a okay, come on, man. But like he's like my one very cool concerning guy, mainly off of just like vibe stuff. And I don't even think did he participate in the combine? I think he was one of the guys who said he wasn't.
I think you're right. Actually, let's do some recon on that right now.
At that point, I have no idea why you wouldn't want to try the combine.
No, he was there.
He was there? Okay. Yeah. If he threw in stuff, then peace.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I could have swore he didn't. But
he measured, he threw, he was there.
All right, sick. So maybe
I'll gaslight me, bro. What the hell?
No, but I mean, overall, he's a solid prospect. I definitely don't think 13 is like, it might be a little bit of an overdraft, but I still think even with the trade, he will probably still end up as a Raider.
Yeah. I think that would be a really interesting selection. I just think the Raiders right now are in a position to where they don't want to commit themselves to a quarterback right now. So that's why I don't have them taking it. And also, I really like Fuaga at this spot. So that's what I mean.
Yeah, I have Fuaga soon.
Okay, so let's see. Let's see what happens there. But at 14, the Saints are up, and I think this is a weird spot for them because they're another team that's like nothing is like a glaring weakness, and the ones that I would say should be addressed right now. There's guys that just got scooped up that I would say you wouldn't get a whole lot of value should you address the position still at this spot. So this is another thing where I think that they could start looking for a trade. And there is a player still on the board right now that you have mentioned before, and him still at the board on the board at 14 would be a shock to me. So the Bengals see Brock Bowers still available and trade up to 14 and take the man. And I think that would be a dream scenario for both parties. I think Brock would flourish in the Cincinnati offense, and I think Cincinnati has been lacking in a real capable tight end since the rotation of Drew Sample and CJ Uzama and back to the days of Tyler Eifert when he was really good.
Hayden Hurst, baby.
And I'm sorry, true, and Hayden Hurst. He was solid, but they really have never had that star power at the position. And where with the T. Higgins situation in limbo, will he stay on the tag? Will he play? If he does stay, will he be traded? I would say a way to add some stability to the receiving room in general, is to get Brock.
No, I mean, you're definitely right there. I honestly was very contemplating of seeing if I should actually try to do trades just to see if it would actually work.
Mm-hmm.
I will mention this isn't a huge difference from my original mock draft. I just changed it for like the clearly obvious ones, like the Falcons
Sure,
weren't
sure,
going to get
sure.
anybody and stuff like that. Um, but I have the Saints keeping their pick, and we realize that um, there's a certain Oregon tackle that's still on the
Yes.
board here, and so I don't
This
see
is a
why
good
you
pick.
wouldn't just immediately grab him, immediately scoop him up. I'm not gonna lie, I did run this by my friend Ethan, who's a diehard Saints fan, and he said,
Friend
"This
of the
is the guy."
pod. He was
Yeah,
on.
exactly, he was on the pod, and he was like, if the other two tackles weren't on the board, or this is the guy I want.
Yeah.
So I was like, that seems reasonable enough. If a Saints fan wants him, may as well throw him in there.
Definitely. I think that's a really
So,
smart pick for the Saints should he be available at that spot. I think if he was still there for me, I think the Saints don't make that trade.
yeah.
But unfortunately, he gets picked right before him. So that's who we've got at 14. Cincinnati trades up for me. So I will once again address New Orleans in a second. But for now, we talk about Indianapolis, and we've got to pick the pace up on this. We are spending a lot of time on each pick. So we're going to try and pick up the pace a little bit. At 15, Indianapolis has done a weird job in free agency of mostly just addressing the guys that would depart from their own team and re-signing a lot of guys. So for me, this is like just kind of a best player available. Who do you think is really good spot? And for me, a corner would be very helpful for them right now in a division with a lot of young talent at the position of quarterback and receiver. So, and in my opinion, the best one in this draft is Quinyon Mitchell out of Toledo.
I also have him.
Wow,
I
really?
have him there. I was
No
like, I like this
kidding.
dude. I looked at his combine compared to the other ones. I'm like, this dude killed the combine.
I think
him.
he did. I think he flew in the combine. He was
Like,
awesome. I'm a big fan of Quinyon Mitchell. I've seen some of his tape
say.
as well lately, and I really think he's a little underrated in this prospect. He in this process, he should be cemented in corner one discussions right now in this class.
Exactly, and I have him also going 15. I'm pretty sure I already said that, but he's good. I think I like him a lot more, and I think another guy like Teron Arnold is who may be considered.
I think is the other guy that's more widely considered better.
My thing is like he feels a little slow. That's it. Like this dude's a little bit faster.
He had a nice 40 time. I don't know if you saw. He had a solid 40 time for.
He had a 4.5,
Arnold.
I believe.
It was a solid 40. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a respectable one, but when you see
Quinyon flew.
I was gonna say when you see someone who whips out a 4.3, you're like, ooh, bro's kind of cooking here.
I think so. I think he's got really great skills and coverage in both schemes. I think he's really solid in zone, and the Colts run kind of a hybrid zone scheme. So I think he would fit really well in that spot. Yeah, I just really like Quinyon Mitchell.
I do too.
So that's who we've got both at 15. I'm very surprised we went with the same guy there. That's awesome. And at 16, to me, Seattle kind of has one glaring problem right now. There's a lot happening on that team that could be addressed. But in my opinion, there is one issue that I would hyper-focus on in the draft, and that is your pass rush. In a division that has Matthew Stafford, Kyler Murray, and we're not going to have the same guy. I know we're not. I know already that we're not. Okay. Yeah, because you already have drafted.
Wow.
Yeah, but
Damn
I think I would guess who you have. But I'll let you talk about him. I now will have Dallas Turner go off the board. I think it's kind of a nice situation for him. I personally, I said I would talk about Dallas Turner, so I will for a second here. I'm not a huge fan of Dallas Turner. I think he doesn't have great size. I don't think he had really just like a considerable bag of pass rush moves. I just think he relies really heavily on his athleticism, which is abundant. Yes, 100%. He's super, super, super athletic, super quick, super shifty. But I just don't know if he's going to have that power at the NFL level to consistently beat NFL tackles, which people look at the SEC and they're like, it's full of NFL tackles. And it's like, it's not the NFL though. So I'm curious to see, yes, of course. And I'm curious to see how he handles that jump. But I think Mike McDonald's new head coach will be able to utilize him to his fullest.
Yeah, I mean, so Dallas Turner, I have him obviously off the board, but I still have him, needing to get an edge rusher. And so I'm going to pick a guy who, once again, I could even see him going over Dallas Turner. Like there's three edge rushers who all feel like almost the same to me. That I like all of them. There's no
Yeah.
things that I'm like genuinely be mad. But since they have the edge rusher and he's still on the board, I think Jared Verse would
Yep.
fit pretty well there.
Yep. That would have been my guess.
I still think it's consistent. It's consistent. Yeah, consistently said that Dallas Turner, him, and then UCLA like that. That I don't know why I said. What's his name?
Latu.
Yeah, Latu. Yeah, whatever. I can't pronounce names. Leave me alone.
Dyslexia.
Yeah. But he's really good. It makes sense why they put him there.
Yeah, so we agree that they addressed the pass rush, but we just have different players. Really, it's kind of a toss-up who is available at that spot. Exactly. So at 17, this is where Jacksonville was for me. They traded up to get Jackson Powers Johnson out of Oregon, and Denver trading down. This is where they pick up another Oregon Duck. This time, I have Denver getting Bo Nix.
Oh, okay.
So
I can see that too.
Yeah, I personally don't really have a preference between Bo Nix and Michael Penix because I have different gripes with them both.
Yep.
But at this spot in the first round, I would say it's fine value for Bo Nix because I feel like they definitely want to address the quarterback position in the draft. And this is a solid way to do it. Accumulate some picks in a trade back and still get the guy that you want. I really feel like Sean Payton wants a guy like Bo Nix who can contribute to both the run and pass game. I think he is very professional, having played in two very different systems in the SEC and in the Pac-12 at Auburn and Oregon. I just think he's kind of solid in a lot of different things. And like I said, people call him super pro ready. And I don't know how much I agree with that, but I see what they're talking about. And I think Sean Payton and George Payton, the GM, will also be able to see it. I think Elway could see a lot of his game in Bo Nix, and seeing how involved he is in the organization still. I would say he makes the move for Nix over a guy like Penix.
Yeah, honestly, between them, for me, it's the Raiders and the Broncos. One of them is getting Bo Nix, and the other one's getting Penix. That's just my thing. I really don't know which one's going where. I do think it fits better if Penix was a Raider and Bo Nix, like vibe wise,
Yeah,
perfectly reasonable.
It's a vibe.
It's a vibe. I feel
that's
like
our evaluation. Vibe.
Yeah, exactly. Penix feels like very Raider-ish, and Bo Nix feels very very Bronco-ish. But honestly, either way, either or. I just realized that was a trade for you because I don't have the Jags, or I have the Jags.
Right, that was my trade.
So I'm not gonna lie, I could have gone tackle here, and I kind of still want to go tackle here. I might change that next time. But I also think that they need a lot of help at the corner spot.
Yeah.
So I got them getting the arguably quote unquote number one guy, Terran Arnold.
I like it. I really do. I think if they choose not to address the offensive line, then Terran Arnold, should he be available? Yeah.
Yeah, I hope. I'm pretty sure they just made the threat of, hey, if Trevor Lawrence gets hurt, Mac Jones is your quarterback. So now all of those linemen are just training very hard.
That's true. That's the real motivator.
I don't want to have.
We cannot have Mac Jones playing. I refuse to block for him. Yeah,
exactly. So I think they will address that. I could also see them addressing, a tackle because there's still a guy who's still on the board of mine, at least, who will get picked shortly, but he's still there. So he could go that as well.
All right. So at 18, this is where the other one of my trades ends up. The Saints trade back to 18. The Bengals, like I said, get Bowers, and the Saints now invest in the offensive line. Amarius Mims, another Bulldog, comes off the board here. Mims has absolutely wild potential. He just has an unfortunate injury history. Should he have stayed another year with the Dogs and have stayed healthy, he could be in legit conversations for the number one overall selection in next year's draft. So I think the Saints, having drafted very recently Trevor Penning in the first round, that experiment has failed horribly. He's been one of the worst tackles in football these past 2 seasons. Absolutely atrocious. I think that they have to gamble on the big potential with Amarius Mims because it is not potential with his play. We know how dominant he is on the field. We just have to make sure he stays on the field. And I think New Orleans would take the gamble there.
Yeah, Nims is a very good player. Big dude. I feel like you can trust those Georgia linemen pretty well
Yeah,
with
definitely.
anything, honestly. So if he's still on the board for that one, so yeah, I'd say him. I have the Bengals here, and I have them getting J.C. Latham to help support
Interesting.
that line. I kind of think Higgins is gonna stay. Right?
Okay.
I think he's gonna stay, even though he
hmm
requested trade. I feel like that, or they might end up getting somebody. Um,
So, Ryan,
am
I
I
hate to
wrong
break it
here?
to you,
I'm wrong
buddy.
here. Yeah, it's
No,
the
no, no,
other
no, no.
guy. No.
You're not wrong. I hate to break it to you, but the Bengals did just sign Trent Brown to be their other tackle.
When
So,
did that happen?
like a couple days ago.
Well, that's unfortunate. That will have to go back.
Hey,
That's
maybe they
a
get
womp womp.
another one. Who knows?
they
They
get
get
they get a
another
they get a
one.
third tackle, man.
Dude,
Okay,
they could.
I
It's not even
clearly
a
missed
bad
that.
selection.
It's not a
Orlando
bad
Brown has been
selection.
kind of shaky. Trent Brown outside of New England has been shaky.
He's still there. I
Who
somehow
knows?
managed to miss that tackle pickup.
It's okay.
That's unfortunate. That's unfortunate.
It's
But
okay, buddy.
yeah. So honest, they get if they for some reason want another tackle, why wouldn't they get J.C. Latham?
I honestly don't think it's like a terrible pick. I think
not
it's
a terrible
still
pick.
it
I
could
was
happen.
not aware that they got
Yeah, no,
somebody.
you're fine. It's okay.
They could do that and just move him to the inside.
Who
So,
knows? Maybe they could put Trent Brown at guard. Who knows?
exactly.
Okay, so at 19, the Rams are trying to replace the loss of Aaron Donald, who just retired. Moves like this, Aaron Donald's retirement, we cover on the TikTok, so go check that out if you have not already. But yes, Aaron Donald has retired. Quarterbacks rejoice, but now they need to fill the void. And they pick up the best defensive tackle in the draft, in my very own opinion, Byron Murphy out of Texas. Very physical, lots of tools in the pass rush. Reminds me a little bit of Aaron Donald in terms of his physical ability, but in his stature, yeah, he's a bigger dude than Aaron Donald. But you could never compare anyone to Aaron Donald, so I'm not even going to try. He's a different player entirely, but one that I think can fill the void.
Yeah, I also have him getting a replacement for Donald, but because he's still on the board, why not you get Latu? He's still on the board.
Oh,
I would honestly hate this. Kyler Murray would probably be crying a little bit because if I have a guy that I was willing to bet on who's gonna be the All Pro like year one type thing, it'd be Latu out of those three. I mean, he has a
true.
lot of upside.
He has
Like,
crazy upside, so I can see it.
Since he's still on the board there, why not get that edge guy? Because honestly, it sucks. But if you want pressure to the quarterback, the now modern thing is to have an edge guy and then an overhang corner DB guy who's fast and strong hitting.
Who that? Who that say go beat them Saints?
Sorry, that was Ethan being a complete
friend of the pod,
tomfoolery
Ethan.
himself.
No, it's all good. Ethan, you want to get him in? Get Ethan's
Ethan,
opinion on the Saints.
Here. Get in here. Yeah, I know it was you. Come here. What do you want me to ask?
Ethan, what's up, buddy?
You can't hear. I got headphones on.
Okay, Ethan, you are the translator, Ryan.
Yeah,
Ethan, who would be your dream player for the Saints in this draft? Realistic dream player
for the Saints.
I love Alu. I don't know how to say that whole first name, but Fashanu.
Olu Fashanu, yeah.
Alu Fashanu. He is the guy for the Who Dat Nation. I'm rocking the Pels too, but Alu Fashanu. Last night, okay, they're doing good though.
Womp womp.
Okay, so Fashanu is going to the Saints, or Fuaga, who I think is senior mock draft.
I think that's the guy I ended up putting. Yeah.
Yes, but I would like Fashanu. So yeah,
that'd be a dream. Okay, thank you, Ethan.
Thank you, Ethan. Woo! The pod with that chant. It's okay. I'll beat him up later.
No. Amazing contribution from Ethan. Okay, so we just covered the Rams. Now we move to Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh pretty much desperately needs corners right now. They have Joey Porter Jr., but no one else really back there. Patrick Peterson just got released after a subpar season. So I think with a guy like Terrion Arnold still available, I think you have to take him here. I think it's a fantastic pick for Pittsburgh, and I think he should step in and fill the void right away.
Yep. I mean, I was trying to figure out between him and. Please tell me they didn't pick up a tackle. Did they pick up a tackle or a lineman?
Let's look.
If they
I
did,
think
I
they
would
have
be
a
really
void
sad.
there.
I'm really sad because I was thinking between one or the other. And while you figure that out, and while I have my confidence still, I'm going to talk about Troy Fanutanu. I think
Troy
that's that correct? How do you say it?
Fanutanu.
I
Troy
apologize.
Fatanu, I think is how
Fatanu.
you say it.
Fatanu? Okay.
Yeah.
Apologize. I can't
That's
words.
funny, dude.
I'm an engineer, okay? I don't do this English stuff.
Yeah, they
I've
could
taken
use
the
a left
one,
tackle. Dan Moore Jr. is not him, but they have
Yeah.
Broderick Jones on the right side, so they could
Broderick
use a
Jones
tackle.
is good. So I think they might bolster up that line just because the defense is still overall solid. And you really want to give Russell Wilson and or Justin Fields a shot without him, getting demolished if that does be the case. So I could see him picking up that. I might change that to corner later. But yeah, one or the other is honestly what I see.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think they would probably want to bolster the line. But at the same time, Pittsburgh has such a defensive focus that to me that would be the number one priority. So especially with a guy like Arnold still on the board, which you have taken, by this point. So that makes sense. Now we jump to number 21, where Miami does have their first round pick this year, unlike last year where it got taken away. And speaking of being taken away, Christian Wilkins was one of the top free agents on the board and was taken away. So they have a pass rush void on the inside. I considered taking an edge at this position because Jalen Phillips is also recovering from an Achilles tear, which is really tough. They lost a lot of presence on the edge as well with Emmanuel Ogba being released and Andrew Van Ginkel being gone. But at the same time, they picked up some rotational guys in free agency, and I really think that they're going to want to splash on the inside once again because Wilkins was such an impact player. And I think there are two defensive tackles that are surefire first-rounders to me, and the other is Jerzon Johnny Newton from Illinois. I think he's just another big body that has a lot of physical tools, and I think had solid showings in his draft day process events. And I like him here for Miami.
Yeah, I also have him taking a D lineman, but because he's somehow still on the board, they go select Byron Murphy. So we already said how good Byron Murphy is, and all of it still applies. So we could just
100%. Solid pick. I agree. So at number 22 is where the third and final of my trades in the first round occurs. So Philadelphia is sitting here at number 22, and a lot of the talent at positions of need, like corner, or maybe another guy to add depth to the O-line, which I don't think is really going to happen. But wide receiver technically is a pick that I've seen a lot of people make here, but I feel like that would be kind of too much of an investment. And Philly maneuvers the draft board to eventually parlay that into a player that they are really a fan of, and gives it up to Baltimore, who comes up and is pretty much Super Bowl or bust mode at this point. They need to see Lamar go be that guy, and they further support him by getting more help on the pass rush. Jared Verse is still available. They have to go get him. He's at 22. How is he still available at this spot? Baltimore doesn't hesitate and gives up whatever they need to go get their guy.
Yeah, that honestly makes perfect sense. If I could see a trade there too to get up Jared Verse. He's still an insanely good corner, or no, not corner, edge rusher player. Eagles for me still stay here. I could see him honestly. I kind of forgot about this, but Jason Kelsey did retire, so I could see him getting a Jackson Powers Johnson right out the gate. He's still on mine, but I kind of forgot about that.
No, you're good. They have a center backup plan anyway. You're
fine.
They
have a center who's good, but they could
Cam
go out and get him.
Takes over.
But I have them taking a guy for that defensive coverage, and I think they're going to get Nate Wiggins from Clemson.
Okay.
I think it's a respectable. I don't know a whole lot about him. I saw some of his stuff, and I was like, he seems pretty promising.
Nate Wiggins to me is a polarizing prospect. There's a lot to like, and there's also a decent amount of concerns, but I will be talking about him in a little bit, spoiler alert. So I will address that when we get there. But that is number 22. I have Philly trading out and Baltimore getting Jared Verse. and you have Philly staying put and getting Nate Wiggins. So now we move to number 23, where it was the Houston Texans, and they made a pre-draft trade, just pick swaps. I think it was a really dumb move from the Texans. Really don't know why that they would trade a first for essentially 2 seconds. That's stupid to me. But regardless, Minnesota is now on the board. They want to parlay this and their first round pick into a trade up, but they don't get to. So here they utilize it on a guy that I am absolutely in love with this fit. I think it is a perfect pairing of player and team. Cooper DeJean is going at this pick. Do you have him here too?
I've got Cooper DeJean going.
Yes,
dude. It screams having the white corner guy screams freaking Minnesota. It's
dude.
So
I
fun.
think it does. Not only
so
is
fun.
that, but I think it is just absolutely perfect because DeJean is a really polarizing prospect. Obviously, white corner, haha, funny, right? People are like, move him to safety. Whether that happens or not, he is absolutely stellar in a zone scheme, and Brian Flores basically only runs zone. I think he is at minimum top 3 in the league in zone schemes. Run.
He plays a lot of zone. But I just think it's like a perfect fit. You know, our defenses has moved in an era where we want DBs who are still strong enough to step up and make those tackles. Like I think the Seahawks last year had like 5 sacks from Witherspoon just because of how they played him. Yes. that is the new thing. And even the Ravens were doing it with Kyle Hamilton and maybe Marlon Humphrey, but I think it was mainly Hamilton who was the guy who.
It was Geno Stone is the guy that you're thinking of. He was really solid as a pass rusher from the defensive backfield.
So that's like the new generational thing of defense is just to stop the high-powered offense, is to get that insanely fast pressure that you get from having a corner go off the edge. And I could see him doing that like pretty well too. You can move him honestly anywhere too. You know. Sure, like we said, haha, funny white guy, but like
literally,
he's good. Like
he's really good objectively, and it's tough to kind of put that in the back of your head because that's pretty much anything any casual NFL fan talks about. Excuse me, but yeah, I think Cooper is a legitimately good prospect. That on some boards I've seen him as like upwards of a top 15 pick, which and on others I've seen him fall out of the first round entirely. So it's really I'm curious to see if he is drafted in the first round, because unfortunately with a guy like him, he is more likely to be snubbed from the first round than any. But I think Minnesota, if there is a team to take a gamble, it would be them. So I'm glad that we agree on this one. That's awesome.
It's the perfect fit, man.
I really think it is. It is a genius fit for him. This is the perfect place for him to go succeed. So now we move to Dallas at number 24, a team that has barely done anything in free agency. But one thing that does intrigue me is the release of Michael Gallup, their second string receiver. And well, second or third, they have Brandon Cooks, but Brandon Cooks was kind of a disappointment after being traded there last year, dealt with some injuries, had some relatively poor play, but that also is compounded by CeeDee Lamb's dominant season. But CeeDee can only do so much, and they just lost Tony Pollard, and they're not taking a running back in the first round because there's none good enough. So what do they do at playmaker? They go get another receiver. This is where Brian Thomas Jr. comes off the board. I think it's just a splash play for the Dolphins, for the Cowboys. And it just makes sense to me. Jerry Jones is trying to swing big once again at receiver. It worked with CD. Maybe it'll work again.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to see him go to the Cowboys.
Trust me, me neither.
It would make me very sad to see my LSU boy go to a team that's just not going to be anywhere close to a Super Bowl in his entire career.
Mm-hmm. 100% yes, I agree.
Yeah, to your point, I could definitely see him doing that. However, they did also lose their tackle in free agency, if I remember correctly.
This is true. This is true.
We do know, unless they have done something like 3 days ago to now, which
no, they didn't do anything. They didn't make any moves. The plan was just to keep Terrence Steele at right tackle because he's played there before, and then move Tyler Smith from right to left to replace Tyron Smith. Tyler and Tyron, different players. So that's the plan, but it would not surprise me to see them upgrade. So I will let you finish.
So I see him getting, another good guy who you've already mentioned. If he's still on the board, if Mims is still on the board.
Oh God, don't make him go Dallas. Don't allow him to go there.
I love how we both picked two dudes from our
college. Yeah, we did, and we both hate Dallas. Please don't though. That would suck.
Please don't go to Dallas.
I don't want to see that happen, but yeah, it would not surprise me to see them address the line.
I want them to draft somebody who's like undrafted, projected guy. Okay. But yeah, I see him getting a lineman, and Mims is still the best one on the board. So unfortunately for you, he's gonna be like them boys.
Yeah, sad. If that happens, I'm sad about it. But oh well. At 25, Green Bay is on the board, and they just released David Bakhtiari, and he barely played anyway. But they also just lost another guy on the offensive line whose name escapes me right now. He went to the Giants, so that's your homework, audience. Go figure out his name. I forget his name. So I think they addressed the offensive line because they know that they have their guy in Jordan Love. They know that he can really produce with a lot of moving parts at receiver. No star player, but he was able to produce with a lot of solid contributors. So they go offensive line and take Graham Barton from Duke, a guy that I think has been a really big riser in this exercise. And I just think it's a nice fit.
Yeah, I mean, that seems pretty fair. See, I kept in mind of the Green Bay strategy for drafting in the first round, which is give your quarterback no help whatsoever and do something that you probably don't need. Like I can't remember it, but I don't think they've picked like a first round offensive guy.
It's been like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
the last one that they got, I'm pretty sure was Jordan Love. So
true. I think actually that's correct.
The last offensive player that they got in the first round was Jordan Love.
I think that is exactly correct. Yes.
So with that being said, they go out and get Kool-Aid McKenzie from Alabama.
Wow.
Just for that
drip
name.
I like it. We've seen some stuff happening with Jair. He's made some weird Instagram posts being like, "Thank you, Green Bay," but he's still there.
I mean, we don't know if he's retiring or leaving or whatever, but honestly, he is getting up there in age for corners. So you may as well throw in a guy who can at least either develop under him or maybe be expected to replace that corner one in a year or two.
Yeah, I don't hate the pick. I thought about going defensive because there's always a need to add to your pass rush, to your inside. But I just feel like the value here is not good enough on a defensive player to pass on a really deep offensive line class here. So,
but it's the Green Bay Packers, so
it's the Packers, so they're probably going to go draft like a kicker or something. I don't know.
Honestly, they could. I don't think any Green Bay fan would be mad if they drafted a kicker in the first round.
I think every Green Bay fan would be mad if they drafted a kicker in the first round, Ryan.
Nah, definitely not.
Not a chance that they would be cool with that. What do you mean?
No, they're going to lose their mind. Don't worry. Trust.
Yes,
trust
the guy I wanted.
Like, no way, we got that one kicker.
Rodrigo Blankenship in the first round. Okay. So that's Green Bay. Tampa Bay at 26. They're in also kind of a weird spot because it's like they're a playoff team, but they're not really expected to be a Super Bowl team. Okay, well, maybe not anymore.
Not anymore.
But they have a playoff caliber roster, especially in the NFC, which sucks. So, to me, another underrated guy that no one's really talking about is Zach Frazier, a center out of West Virginia. And I would say this is one of the better classes we've seen for centers, and they need a center. So I would say that they just make the move there. They are pretty solid on defense overall, even with some losses in the offseason with guys like Shaq Barrett and Antoine Winfield. But I'd say they still invest in the offensive line because when you invest your money in the quarterback, you invest your draft picks in protection. So that's kind of how I look at that.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, like I also have them drafting a center, but since Jackson Powers-Johnson is still on the board,
wow. That shocks me that you actually have them taking a center.
Like I'm a yoink him. They paid like not really big money, but they paid a quarterback to at least be there for the foreseeable future.
Right.
And the last thing you want to do is get rid of and hurt that $1 million arm that they have. So you go out and get somebody like the guy from West Virginia. Or since he's still on the board, you get him.
Yeah, I like the pick. If he's still on the board, I forgot he was still on the board for you. I think that's pretty low for him, but we will see. This is going to be like You remember last year when I had that guy, that guard going like 10th overall to the Eagles,
Mhm.
and he went second round to the Bills.
Oh,
What is his
Cyrus
name?
Torrance.
Yes, this is
love
gonna
him.
be my
He's
Osiris
so
Torrance
good.
of this draft.
He-
He's actually
he's
goated.
good though. He was insane in college.
He was, but I was a little too high on him. Okay, so that's the Bucks, both centers, but different players. So now we go to Arizona's second first round pick, and here they address the defensive side of the ball, and they take a guy that you already have picked in Nate Wiggins, who I think, like I said, I wanted to talk about for a second because he's got a lot of skills that can leave scouts really drooling, but I look at a lot of the negatives of his skill set, which he did blaze a 40-yard dash, but immediately during the 40 got hurt. And that's just like, that's really concerning to me. And if he can't like have a clean 40, like how do we expect him to stay durable in an NFL season? Which like that could be a fluke thing, but it also scares me a little bit. And I have seen him like kind of give up on tackles, and that it's just an effort thing with him. So I don't know if that's like a college mentality, something that can be changed. But I think Jonathan Gannon is a mover of people. That I've completely 180'd on him, like everyone else. I think he's a really good motivator, and he did a lot with a little last year on defense. So Nate Wiggins, I think, could blossom under Gannon, which is why I like this pairing.
Yeah, I think that's also fair. I have the Cardinals still going on defense, but I picked one a little bit more in that top front part, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
Byron Murphy's off, but you still have Newton on the board at this point.
Okay, yeah.
So why wouldn't you just throw him the bone as well? Like, I feel like they've also been a team that's kind of lacked in pass rush. I mean, their best pass rusher that I can think of is really old J.J. Watt, and he's gone for,
Yeah, their pass rush is significantly lacking, and they need a big boy in the middle.
Big issue. So having that big guy up there just eating up everything, may as well throw him in there.
Sure, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I like it. So Arizona, they help their defense one way or another. But Buffalo, they need help everywhere. Like, Buffalo is just in such a bad spot. They had to release basically their entire roster this offseason and lost their second receiver in Gabe Davis, where I think this is the draft where they try and fill that void. And when a guy like Adonai Mitchell is still on the board, he's just a physical specimen, really. He does so many things that just leave you drooling. And I think a lot of people are underrating him right now because of Xavier Worthy, famous dude that ran the best 40 in combine history. So that kind of takes away from what a lot of A.D. Mitchell is doing, but I would still rank Mitchell above Worthy pretty considerably. And Buffalo agrees and takes him here in my mock.
Funny enough, you say the other Texas receiver, because
Oh.
I think there's always one receiver that I feel like is the reach solely because of just how peak they did in the combine.
Yeah.
And I think Josh Allen might just be drooling at the point that there's a really fast guy who can probably catch his 70-yard deep ball. And I think they would be like, well, why not get the deep threat, the insanely good deep threat that could be Xavier Worthy?
Yeah.
With the insane speed, I don't think he's worth that high. This is just more of it fits the scheme of, Josh Allen being able to throw a ball 90 yards and him having a really fast combine. And it was a lot bad at a point. I mean, I think who was the last record holder? Ross?
It was John Ross, I think.
I mean, he was not a first round pick until he shattered that record. And then all of a sudden he's going like 9th overall to the Bengals. So I think there might be a little bit of a scenario here with that guy. Just he is so fast, and there's just some other nice things about him, but he's so fast that it's like, why would you not give him the shot? I don't think that's definitely the best for him.
I like Xavier Worthy. I just think the role he would play on this offense is a little bit redundant because I like Khalil Shakir for that role, for more of a deep ball threat. speedster on the boundary. That's kind of the role that Xavier Worthy would play. And I think Worthy would probably be better than Shakir, but also I was a big fan of Shakir since he was drafted, and I'm really glad people are starting to see his potential to be a real number 2 receiver in the NFL. I think he's really solid. So especially if Stephon Diggs stays, I think he and Diggs would be a good pairing, which is why I think A.D. Mitchell, who fills a pretty different role, would be a better pick in my opinion. But I see where you're coming from with Worthy. I just think Shakir kind of fills a similar role.
Yeah, I mean, it's solely of just pick your poison type thing. It's which guy you want to get at the end of the day.
Very fair. Okay, we are in the home stretch. Last 4 picks. Detroit is here at 29. I originally had them going with an edge here to add to their pass rush in Chop Robinson. But I literally changed it like a couple days ago because famous women respecter Cam Sutton, who is being currently hunted down by police, has just been released. So their already thin defensive back room gets even thinner, and Detroit has no choice but to address the corner position. And with a guy like Kool-Aid McKinstry still on the board, they swing for him here. He has some injury history and overall dropped in this process. But he blazed a 4.47 with a Jones fracture in his foot at his pro day, which I think gets me specifically really excited because while injured, he just had a really, really solid 40 time. So imagine what that man could do healthy.
Exactly. Reminds me of that Julio combine. Love that one. Broken toe with his freaking 4.43 or something like that.
Yeah.
Love that. But this, okay, I'm not going to lie. You might need to hear me out a little bit with this one. I was thinking they realized they needed a corner. They needed an edge rusher. But I'm also like, what's the Dan Campbell special? Is just saying
a long snapper.
Yeah, exactly. No, they want to get that dog guy. They want to get that guy who's an absolute dog. Okay.
No way.
They are getting the one and only Lad McConkey.
No way.
Lad McConkey's going here. Okay.
That's
the
insane.
Dan Campbell guy.
That's
that
so
is
crazy.
120% Dan Campbell's future Hall of Famer receiver right there.
Dude, that's okay. Sure. I don't think they're taking a receiver here. I don't know.
I did kind of forget that Sutton was, out for a rest. I would have probably gone corner here, but it just felt so funny to throw in Lad McConkey here. I had to do it for the bit. Your Honor.
That's fair. Your Honor, it was a bit. It was just a bit. I get it. I get it was for the dogs, for our people. But as a Georgia fan, I don't think Lad McConkey's a first rounder. I'm sorry. He's a second rounder. I think he made himself some money in the draft process. But if a team takes him in the first round, I think that's a bit of an overdraft. But I think he has a really high floor for what it's worth.
I was gonna say, I don't know what corner's still available, but realistically, they'd probably go corner unless they can somehow get a guy before the draft. They're gonna get a corner.
Yeah,
I totally kind of forgot about the whole guy going to.
Speaking of other corners still available and Georgia Bulldogs at 30, the Eagles were at 22 and trade down. And I simply could not resist giving them another Bulldog, as much as it pains me as a Washington fan. Kamari Lassiter sits here at 30. He's not getting a whole lot of first-round buzz, but it's the Eagles. They're going to take another Georgia guy if they're at this spot. If they trade down, it's going to be another dog. So, and I really like Lassiter. Obviously, I have a lot more experience watching him than a guy like you. But yeah, Lassiter, he's a ball hawk that can stick with a lot of fast receivers, makes really smart plays and smart reads. I just think he's a good replacement for a James Bradbury who has regressed crazily. So
yeah, I mean, perfectly reasonable. We're at the number 30.
We're at number 30 where Baltimore is picking for you.
Baltimore is picking for me, and at this point, I think for them, I feel like a receiver would be nice for them. They don't desperately need one, but with Mitchell still on the board, it's like you can get Mitchell.
Really?
You can afford
wow.
there might be some wishful thinking here that's preventing one player who's been drafted yet because he's going to a team that will be later named. But but yeah, I think with Mitchell still on the board, it fits the scheme pretty well. May as well throw him in there.
Sure, man, that's so interesting. I would not think the Ravens draft a wide receiver again in the first round, but you never know. Odell's gone, so you never know.
Odell's gone. I mean, they could also go. I don't know. They could go maybe like a linebacker, but I don't know any good linebackers because Patrick Queen.
Peyton Wilson would probably be the guy to fill the void. He's, I think, probably the best linebacker in the class. I like Jeremiah Trotter as well, but that'd be definitely an overdraft. But yeah, exactly. I don't think I agree with taking a receiver, but you never know. Okay, at 31, the Super Bowl runner-up 49ers. They are pretending their offensive line is still really good outside of Trent Williams, and in my opinion, it is not. I think their right tackle spot is considerably worse than what it could be, and I think if you are really going to commit to Purdy, you have to commit to giving him the cleanest pocket you possibly can. And in doing that, you draft a guy that probably shouldn't still be on the board in Troy Fautanu out of Washington. So I also have him in the first round, just a little bit further back than you. So yeah, I think getting a guy to maybe prepare for the retirement of Trent Williams, should that happen soon, because he's still pretty much at the top of his game, but he is getting up there. And in the meanwhile, to play right tackle. So that's my pick for the Niners.
Yeah, I also have them picking a tackle. I just kind of went with best available according to the NFL mock draft database. So they're going to go out and get a guy, Tyler Gutton from Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm. I figured you would say that because that's my next pick, actually.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
That's my next pick. So we'll roll right into that. Kansas City, both of the Super Bowl participants from this past year bolstered the offensive line. I think people are going to mock Kansas City wide receivers again like they did last year, and Kansas City is going to give them the middle finger again like they did last year and not take a receiver in the first round. At least they got a guy in free agency that's pretty solid with Hollywood Brown. So this is where I've seen Xavier Worthy mocked a lot, but I think Hollywood Brown fills that speedster role and fully cements me thinking they take a tackle, because their tackles were like the worst part of their line last year. Their interior is rock solid, but their tackles with Jawan Taylor and the left tackle who is no longer on the team. I forget his name. He came from Tampa, but regardless, they need a guy to slot in there. Yeah. And Tyler Guyton is still on the board, and I think he's pretty solid. So they go for it.
So I'm not going to lie, there's a little bit of wishful thinking here just because I want to see my boy succeed. I do think they need a receiver, okay? I
didn't even realize he was still on the board.
I'm not a huge fan of Hollywood Brown. Rashid Rice is good, but Brown for me is just like, yeah, he's fine. But if you really want to give the people what they want, okay, Brian Thomas Jr. is gonna get a Super Bowl ring as his rookie year.
There's no way he's fallen that far. Come on.
Realistically isn't, but there was a little bit of, I wanted to do a little bit of trolling, okay? Just you know, because we would have the exact same mock draft.
We wouldn't.
No, we wouldn't. But I do think if he is still on the board, which honestly this was more of a just my fault for not getting him off the board. He realistically should have gone like.
You can put some personal bias in your mocks.
There's a little bit.
There's more mocks to come. There's going to be more information that comes out.
I'll give a genuine, unbiased opinion later, but at the moment,
it would be nice. I think that would be a pretty sick pairing.
Having Brian Thomas Jr. being a chief with Mahomes would be terrifying for everybody. Everyone around.
Definitely.
And they do need a tackle, which they could address by trading up or getting one. But, let's have a little fun. Just let's bring a little bit of a little fun in there.
A little fun in our mock. Okay.
Exactly.
And that's number 32. That's our whole mock. Notable guys that I don't have going in the first round. Chop Robinson is a guy that I did, but then replaced. Michael Penix, I don't have him going in the first round. I think he is a late first round kind of guy, but his injury history scares off a lot of teams. Wouldn't be surprised to see the Raiders get him in the second, but I digress. There's another guy that I was going to mention. Oh, yeah, Xavier Worthy. I don't have him going in the first, which I honestly would expect his stock to continue to rise, and he will eventually be a first-round pick, but we will see because the receiver class is just so deep this year. I'm excited to see what happens. So those are some notable guys I don't have drafted. I don't know if you have any off the top of your head because I was not paying attention. But yeah, if you don't have any on the top of your head, I think you have pretty standard first round selections.
Most
thus
of them
far.
are pretty solid.
I would say of guys that
let's see. I mean, I can just say people who I don't deserve to be in the first round because there's a lot of them in my mock.
Really?
There's a lot. Like if I want to go through the entire list, I genuinely do not like JJ McCarthy being a first rounder. Like,
oh yeah, me neither.
he's at a very low end. Penix and Bo Nix could easily be a second round.
I think so.
Round guy. Xavier Worthy, Ladd McConkey also can be that down. I left out Keenan Coleman, even though I actually like him a lot more than either
true.
one
I also
of those
did not
two.
have him. I do too. I'm a big fan of Keenan Coleman.
I might need to throw him in there just because. I mean, I watched him in like that first game against LSU, and I was like, this dude is cracked out of his mind.
Yeah.
That was before I realized that our DBs were just literal marshmallows, but yeah.
True.
So mock draft was fun.
That's our mock. Appreciate you sticking with us. This is another longer episode, but we wanted to deep dive into our first crack at this, at least posting it, because we did do some research earlier before free agency started, and we couldn't get it out there before free agency kind of ruined everything. But I think that's okay because your first mock before free agency is always going to be inaccurate, and we don't need to put that out there. But this one is pretty realistic, I would say. Not a whole lot of big free agents still left on the board to fill the holes that would be filled with these draft picks. So yeah, as a whole, I'm pretty happy with this. I think it's relatively realistic for both of us. And even we will be
McConkey, baby.
Yeah, even Ladd McConkey. I don't know about that, but I still think there's a chance that he goes to a team in the first round. But until he actually does, we will continue making mock drafts and projecting it to happen. So this has been Talking Jack Sports. Follow the Instagram, follow the TikTok, follow us everywhere podcasts are heard. If you're not on YouTube, go check it out on YouTube. If you are on YouTube, thanks for being here. And then also listen to this again on Spotify or Apple Podcasts right after you're done. Yeah, that's all I've got, I think. This has been Talking Jack Sports Mock Draft Take 1. We'll see you next time.